I did it. It's taken this long, but I've done it. It's finally finished. It's finally finished. It's finally finished! This video contains spoilers from Doki Doki Literature Club. But if you came here from this video, which by the way you should have already watched, you kind of know that already, don't you? So yep, this is your last chance to turn back now. I don't think they're leaving. I guess I gotta finish the video. Actually, you know what? I've got an idea. How about we have a couple of polls? The first poll is the easy one. Who's the best girl? And the second poll, let's make that who did you choose on your first playthrough? Natsuki or Yuri to spend your weekend with? I have my theories who's going to win, but let's... I'd like to paint a gradient across the banner. Starting with the colours for a sunrise, then daytime, then sunset, and nighttime. Once it dries, I'll write an inspirational quote across the banner. We can hang it on the wall behind the podium at the front of a classroom, and then we can paint a kitty hanging off a washing line with the words hanging there. I swear to you, I did not plan that. Puns are fun. Especially when you don't intend to do them. Hello, and welcome to the spoilers half of my Doki Doki Literature Club report. I've never done something this in-depth before, so cut me some slack, okay, internet? I'm just really articulating my thoughts, and maybe not fully refining them to the apparently godly heights of copying all your research from Reddit, so let's see where that takes us. I mean, it's gotta be easier talking about 4 2D anime waifus and dealing with my own problems, am I right? If you know nothing about Doki Doki Literature Club and you're still watching, well shit man. You just gave yourself the biggest spoiler almost in the entire game. In fact, speaking of spoilers, while we're on the subject, this is a message to the entire Doki Doki Literature Club fandom. Fuck you. Hey! Don't write your comment. I'm not finished yet. I'm sorry to say this, Doki Doki fandom, but you are the latest in a long line of fads that could quite easily ruin your own fandom from your enthusiasm. To name only a few games, you ruined Portal, you ruined FNAF, Undertale, and now you're ruining this game. Telling people while they're playing the game for the first time to check the game files or even just chanting just
Monika
is the Doki Doki Literature Club equivalent of the cake is a lie, Snape kills Dumbledore, Aerys dies, Luke I'm your father, Tim isn't the hero, he's a stalker, Bruce Willis is the ghost in The Sixth Sense, you must not kill anyone, and the Planet of the Apes was the Earth all along. Do you feel bad now? Do you feel bad for your memes that you've been chanting carelessly in front of new players who've not touched the game yet? Because unless the person you watched playing the game asked you to tell them, you should. You're part of the thousands of people problem robbing players of that one-time only, first-time play experience. You can pretend that doesn't matter all you want, but the first time you play through a game for some people is the difference between will they ever even touch that game again. It doesn't matter if they're doing it wrong. Discovery is part of the fun of story-driven games like this one. If everyone starts respecting that in the future, you look less like a bunch of autistic asshats and actually may even get more people playing the game you care so deeply about instead of driving them away. But once again, we have yet another game which will probably get relegated to fuck this game and its fandom.
I'm sorry.
Oh, what's that? You think the fandom has no effect on an IP? I have one word for you. Buffsuki. Okay, that's a bit much, so let's do something a bit more mainstream. Sonic Forces has meme t-shirts, and Sonic Generations asked people what they wanted in the game. Game modding is a fan showing their love of a game to create new content, which companies can either support or shun into obscurity while at the same time ripping off those fans' ideas. Hello, Mario Maker. The fans quite literally can breathe new life into an IP to the point where the game can keep being resold again and again and again, or even create entirely new ideas and games. Fandoms and how they behave matter. Rant out of the way now. I both love and hate Doki Doki Literature Club, so I guess you could call my feelings bittersweet?
That's not what I wanted to hear.
Ah, crap, we're 4 minutes into the video and we're not even onto the part I want to talk about. We're ignoring all the deeper theory videos today, folks, in this thinking. This series is going to become the new FNAF, isn't it? This is my perspective on this game, and this game alone. Not whatever Salvato and his team has planned next or has out already by the time this video gets out there.
I hope you can hear me, Bob. Or should I say...
Getting a better understanding of Doki Doki Literature Club through playing, watching Let's Plays, watching other streamers, researching and editing my own videos for this game at times, has felt like rooting up the screaming mandrake that is some of my old bad personal memories and normally poker face as fuck emotions. But here we are anyway talking about this. I've probably seen Sayori hang herself, Natsuki snap her neck, and Yuri stab herself so many times I think I'm getting desensitized to this game now. Took long enough, but I think I'm there. Let's just think of this video as closure for me, and hopefully somehow entertaining or informative for you guys. Maybe I bring something new to the table. Possibly. Maybe. Who knows. The characters, as Monika herself would say, are not fully fleshed out in terms of personality, making them, in a sense, one-dimensional. Just like most dating sim games, with their shallow, usually favouring fantasy over all else kind of nature. Despite this, however, once the characters really open up to you, either by choice or through being mentally tortured to the brink of insanity force, that's when the characters feel the most real. As ugly as that more real side of them can be sometimes. But before we get to the character analysis, I want to briefly address one other thing. And that's some other really influential horror and fourth wall breaking games in the past few years. Undertale was fun, creative, but ultimately too unrealistically preachy for me in terms of story. I'ma love and tolerate the fuck out of you! And FNAF just made me annoyed and neurotic about spatial awareness and resource management by the end. The only fun thing about that series was the lore, even though it's grown pretty obvious Scott was making it up as he went along. Like Lost the TV show levels of making it up as he went along. So why did Doki Doki Literature Club affect me so much to give me this bittersweetness when these other games didn't? I guess the reason for that is because once the characters' full natures and struggles are revealed beyond just anime stereotypes, a kind of strange feeling came over me. A feeling that I either knew people in real life with similar issues to what these tortured characters face, who I tried and mostly failed to help in the past, or even in some cases that person with those issues was me, minus the murder and the brain hacking. Can't forget the brain hacking. Is this a testament to the writing in the game, or just me overreacting towards the first visual novel I've ever played instead of just heckling it from the sidelines? In my early exposure to this game, my eyes have watered for no apparent reason, just from late night video editing sessions, and it's made me more jumpy than pretty much any horror game I've played. It's been like a musical earworm in my mind, and I hope this video will hopefully put an end to some of that. I both love Doki Doki Literature Club for making me care at least a little about the characters, and the fun it pokes at gaming and waifu tropes. And I hate it for making me wonder how long it will be before it changes my desktop picture to a corpse of Yuri with no arms and legs. Yeah, please don't do that, ever. Or any of the other messed up ideas this game conjured into my mind's eye.
There's nothing more I want than to be in the same room as you, for real. And to feel your warmth. And to hear the sound of your heartbeat.
So, through trials, tribulations, and being spooked more times than I can count by now, this is my understanding of the cast in the game. I'm not some highly educated snob or any form of doctor. I'm just a normally quiet guy who knows more than people think I do about the human condition, I guess, is the word for it. I say again before we begin, future games in this possible game series and clues hinting to them will be almost completely ignored in this video. I'm also assuming that everything the characters say, even when being hacked, is truthful to at least some degree. So, now we have all that out of the way, let's begin the analysis. I have done more rewrites on my thoughts on this game than I can count. But sooner or later, I've got to put an end to this, or I'll just be doing this forever. Dan Salvato gives me the impression he's someone with a love for anime, but not to the point where he just casually brushes off its criticisms like the genre as some flawless diamond. The nameless character you play as is a great example of this. He often makes bad, sometimes even creepy decisions, either out of being an inexperienced teenager dealing with the struggles of life, or just to have more cringy lines add to the whole anime dating sims tropes thing. It's not cringe just for the sake of it. This is completely on purpose. Whoops, I'm a socially awkward failure who can't say no to girls, but they love me anyway if I think hard enough about it, because this is anime, and anime was wish fulfillment sometimes, and yeah. With all the limited choices, since this is a visual novel dating sim, I almost imagine the player character being like a puppet. Not that different from what happens to Natsuki, actually. Only considerably less creepy, I imagine. But weirdest of all is, to the characters in the universe, that probably looks completely normal to them. The flaws of being a dating sim by nature actually add to the horror. Why exactly, I'll get into later. Natsuki is a wannabe cold until you get to know her. It's not as if I like you or anything backer, tsundere. She comes from what appears to be a neglectful, bossy, possibly incompetent, but definitely physically abusive single-parent household. Either from a divorce or maybe something far more sinister I don't even want to think about. We know this because she has a secret poem which only talks about her papa and never about any other kind of family presence in her life, let alone a mother. Since this is a deep confession poem, if she had a mother figure, or even a sibling, it would have been mentioned at least once. Either as another source of their abuse, or maybe even a thing as corny as "I miss you, mum." Her entire demeanour is really defensive, but it seems she feels safer when she's anywhere but at home. And oh yeah, let's not forget as well, she barely seems to have enough to eat on a day-to-day basis to add to her problems. Which makes me wonder where she got the supplies to make cupcakes, but moving on. She enjoys simple and cute things because her life at home is so scary, chaotic, and authoritarian. Why complicate things if it could all be thrown out the window when Papa's in a bad mood? Despite her appearance, she most likely feels she had to grow up mentally quicker than most people her age to protect and take care of herself, while also feeling she has to keep really secretive about her interests and her love of manga in order to be accepted. This is all through a combined fear of peer pressure, but more so, whatever her dad might do to her if he finds out. It's almost as if her manga collection is a small attempt to hold onto some tiny piece of her childhood in a world which to her just seems cruel, unfair, untrustworthy, and just treats her like crap. It's why she's just so cold to everyone but her closest friends. She doesn't act tsundere because she doesn't care, and she isn't bitchy just for the sake of it. She's doing it to protect herself until she figures out who she can trust. And with how her life is at home, can you honestly blame her? Her relationship with Yuri is the most confrontational of the group, and this could be because, in a lot of ways, they have similar being accepted insecurities, but they deal with it in almost completely opposite ways. Like two sides of a fight or flight response to danger, you could say. She might also have a bit of beauty envy because, well, anime tropes. Natsuki chooses to be secretive socially, but also stand her ground and not take any more crap from people than she feels she has to. She gets enough of that at home, after all. For some reason, Monika seems to torture Natsuki the least of the three characters, using her almost like a puppet, but never leaving what seems to be any lasting brain damage except some lost memories. It could be that Monika just feels pity for her, or sees her as the smallest threat to whatever her plans are. But with how expertly fake and calculated Monika can be, it might even be that if things got weird in front of Natsuki, she doesn't fear or respect Monika to the point where she wouldn't say something compared to the other characters. And if Monika tried to put Natsuki into her own personal mental hell, well, Natsuki already knows what the hell is because she's lived it in the form of her dad in a bad mood. And despite her memory wipes, Natsuki eventually does speak out before everyone else that something is very wrong. And she's also the only character in the cast confident enough to know that it's not her fault. It's why she gives you that please help poem. If she had as little self-esteem as Yuri and Sayori, she would have kept quiet or at least been much more cryptic. Her poem's content, much like her structure, doesn't really have much hidden depth compared to the rest of the cast. While she can do metaphors, it's still clear that the poems are about her own mood, what she thinks about the other characters, or if you really get good friends with her, she gives you probably the most blunt poem in the entire game, confessing her sincere feelings like your typical animes normally would do, only in written form instead of spoken, which is pretty much Natsuki to a T, really. Everyone in this game has some form of mental trauma, but most of Natsuki's problems are more external, making her feel defensive rather than hiding in her own head. So I guess it's appropriate that her biggest confession in the entire game takes the form of a poem. It's out there, but not completely out there to the point where anybody can see it unless she wants them to. It's a little strange, in fact, just how blunt the confession poem she gives you is for a character
If I can't have you...
Okay, you know what? I'm done. I thought this crazy stuff was over, but nope, here we are, and this is still happening.
It was just a joke.
This video's late anyway, and this shit isn't worth it.
Aww, but you work so hard. I guess I could show everyone that folder I found on your computer instead.
What folder? Stop! Stop right there! Don't you dare. Stop right there. Where was I? Oh yes. Creepy lolly stuff aside, Natsuki is the most extrovertly moody to protect herself character in the cast, which can make her hard to like on first glance, and a lot of players, to my understanding, haven't liked her for that reason. But it's her mature inner strength, but still playful side, despite all the shit that's happened to her. That quality is the most likable thing about her as a character. Yuri is a meek, to say the least, introvert. It's a common and very popular anime waifu trope because they're more agreeable, so for all those lonely players out there, they can seem like the least amount of work to get to know and get intimate with. Yuri has extreme social anxiety and most likely also suffers from some early childhood trauma. This could also be stress from her day-to-day life adding to this as well. Coming of age, growing up with the new social rules in her previously carefree life, her body blossoming into a woman betraying her desires for life to stay the same, simple and more carefree. Her behaviour suggests she might also have an overprotective, controlling family, which is why she seems so sheltered, shy, neurotic, and afraid to do pretty much anything foolish. She also really likes when she gets one-to-one time with people. No, not like that. Like this. And especially physical contact. That last touch part especially is another typical creepy dating sim anime trope. But honestly, it also reminds me of signs she could even have high-functioning autism. I'm not saying this just for the sake of some autist meme here. I'm dead serious. She has signs of typical high-functioning autism, or Asperger's as it's also known. Those traits can include, but are not limited to, high levels of social anxiety, heightened sensitivity to their senses, in Yuri's case that could be touch, an extreme focus or interest in only a small set of often odd subjects at the expense of all else in their life. Dyspraxia, which, although not as crippling as a condition as something like cerebral palsy, can affect fine motion control in the body, which could explain why, despite her love of literature, her handwriting isn't that good in her opinion, and often lost in their own world, engrossed in whatever their favourite interest is at the expense of everything else in their life, which, in Yuri's case, is very clearly writing and literature. Yuri also mentions how her interests have been described as intense, so she's learnt to become more quiet and reserved in her sharing of her interests as a result of that. As for the knives thing, I can say that there isn't really a concrete connection here between knives and autism. Autistic people have been known to self-soothe in often strange ways, like a weird kind of meditation, but cutting yourself seems extra counterproductive, especially for them. I'm probably completely wrong about this, but it's a fun idea to think about, isn't it?
Autistic anime waifus!
Woo! Why is this still in the video? I thought this was a stupid idea and I took it out! Fucking Monika! Just keep going. Keep going. We got this. Come to think of it, many anime tropes have some quite autistic traits to them. I'm actually making a genuine point here, but that's a topic for another video. Yuri is too busy being stuck in her own head to really worry too much about what she thinks about other people. It's more a case of she's afraid of what people think of her, which is probably a good 90% of what makes her so afraid of everything. Yuri's life up to this point has convinced her that both her and her interests are unlikable things unless she self-censors. That's why she's so introverted, shy and quiet. She uses the safety of books and her own mind for much of her comfort, which could explain somewhat why she's so well spoken. Before Monika turns her mind of peace and quiet against her, and she becomes a full-blown body-slashing psycho yandere instead of just a wrist-cutting, socially starved intellectual recluse. Even the way she writes is a strange kind of self-censoring. She easily uses the most complicated language of all the characters in her poems, not only because she loves writing in general, but it's also a kind of test for anyone who reads her poem. The test being, are you willing to put in the mental time and energy of decoding her complex language and metaphors based on what you know about the character to kind of connect the dots? It's a quite smart way of telling you a lot about her while also hiding it. I'd go as far as to say if Yuri was more confident, or if you did something crazy like combined the characters Yuri and Natsuki together, you'd probably get a quite snobby grammar Nazi on your hands. But we're missing something here, aren't we? I mentioned yandere earlier, didn't I? There's no shortage of memes online about Yuri and how she's a psycho stabby person, but I think we're all forgetting something very important here. Yuri, based on this game and this game alone, isn't crazy. Just because she likes knives and horror, that doesn't mean anything. Her past, we don't have enough information yet to prove theories on that. But we do have the information to prove that she's crazy because Monika hacked her traits to be what? Over 9,000% over their normal levels? Let's try and paint a picture here of things from Yuri's perspective. Imagine, if you will, being an introvert with no friends. You try to figure out why, even though you barely have the life experience to do that. Sooner or later, you're going to question if there's something wrong with you or you're going insane. Who do you talk to about something like that? Your family? Maybe she can't even do that. Then this Miss Perfect girl Monika shows up, and you feel even worse than you did before, to the point you think she's the one doing it to you somehow. You could confront her, but then it suddenly hits you, what if you're wrong? What if you call Monika out on her bullshit, but it might just be all in your head? You'd then become an even bigger social outcast than you are now for blaming your problems on the popular girl. Generally speaking, we don't understand mental health issues that well compared to physical. So a dilemma like this, and how to deal with that, is pretty heavy shit for anyone to deal with. Yuri wouldn't dare question Monika out of fear of being wrong, being the weak failure she's afraid she is, being mocked, and then feeling more alone than ever. She knows that even if she finds herself hard to understand, let alone other people, it's still better to have people be indifferent about her than to think she's crazy. Yuri's constant desire to do the right thing, be at her best and never fail, is what they call analysis paralysis.
That scene where she refers to you as a friend, lol, friend zone, you need to think of the weight of that word from her point of view. She doesn't give that title of friend to just anyone. And she has all the signs of someone who
finds even friendship
can't finish the video if you keep doing this crazy shit.
That wasn't me.
I don't believe you. Her facing her fears and her desire to always be her best for everyone despite how much she wants to run away and hide is what makes her likable. But I can also see how she's maybe the most anime tropey of all the characters. Her personality can make her seem weak-willed, and when you pair that with her beauty, Monika notices these qualities about Yuri, and honestly, I'm not sure if she mentally tortures her or Sayori more. I mean, they both kill themselves. But Yuri is also socially anxious as fuck too, so to have her go from quiet this to loud this, yeah, Monika probably did the most damage to her. But more on that later. Sayori is the easiest to read of the group, once she finally opens up, since she basically tells you, because that's the kind of trusting, submissive, depressed person that she is. But at the same time, you're not really given any clues what her home life is like to have caused her deep depression in the first place. I mean, seriously, did no one check her room before she created that horrific scene? Maybe that's a little bit of the point that developers are trying to make with this character though. Your life can seem perfect to everyone else, but depression can still hit you regardless. It's like the good things in your life never existed to begin with, or they just don't matter. Sayori can come across as a bit of a carefree airhead, but her later poems, the fact she's club vice president, and the way she can diffuse situations shows she can apply herself and do great things. Just not when depression's kicking her ass. It's possible that she associates deep thinking with also bringing back those depression rain clouds of hers, crippling her desire to do pretty much anything really, which is why she normally avoids it. Have you ever procrastinated doing things because of some fear of bad feelings it gives you, or at least think it's going to give you? Well, that's basically Sayori to a T. Sayori is also convinced herself to have a sense of duty to help who she cares about be the best they can be. It's a very effective way to make at least some friends and ignore your own depression, but in doing that you're also often ignoring your own needs. Trying to make rational, well thought out personal decisions by yourself while depression or something similar is also fighting with you can feel impossible, which is why she's avoiding these conversations with herself like the plague, and half the reason why she's worried about other people like the player instead of herself. Sayori behaves like a sacrificial lamb. Whatever happened to her in the past has made her believe she's a second-class human compared to everyone else's happiness and well-being. And her accommodating behaviour, once she finally wakes up for the day, proves that she thinks this is easier than dealing with her own problems. Her feelings could maybe even be she has some kind of perpetual guilt complex. If her self-esteem is low enough, it could even be something as simple as, oh my god, someone actually puts up with me. I should never stop rewarding them for that because it's the least I can do. Being just herself isn't enough, so she puts on a brave, smiling face for the world 99% of the time until she's alone. Her struggles don't matter in her mind as long as everyone else is happy, because she thinks she doesn't matter. Or at the very least, being upset in public would make her unlikable. Some of the dialogue exchanges between her and you, the player, can come across as creepy, enabling bad thinking. Like when he says he knows what's best for her. Sure you do, buddy. If you're trying to make your waifu dependent on you to even function as a human being. It doesn't sound so innocent when I put it like that, does it? Well, dating sims can be romantically quite creepy sometimes, and I think these exchanges between Sayori and the player character were written this way on purpose. But the saddest part of all about her character is Sayori seems to think of Monika as her best friend apart from the player. It's why she takes whatever Monika said to her in private so seriously without question, regardless of if it was good or bad for her. Not to mention, Sayori was basically the first guinea pig that Monika tried hacking. So what happens to the human brain when a selfless depressive who is trying to be numb to their own problems gets mind-fucked? Well, they're just going to think they're turning into an even bigger burden to everyone around them and have to sacrifice even more to repent for that. The thought that Monika was the one making her feel worse probably never even crossed Sayori's mind. While it is wrong to reward Sayori's victim behaviour, her selfless desire to always do her best when it counts and make everyone she cares about happy even if she feels she can't maybe make herself happy is what makes her so likeable. Oh, and that Easter egg where if you delete Monika at the start of the game, Sayori destroys everything and herself? Well, that would be her mind breaking from the weight of suddenly knowing everything Monika knows, and more importantly, having not yet experienced death herself. Coming back from the dead with a near godlike power and knowledge never had before changes a person. And nothing bad happened that time. Huh. Ah!
SK.
Oh, hell no.
What's a thought?
Oh.
Is everything okay?
You don't need to worry about that. You don't need to worry about that. It's nothing. It's nothing. So, why isn't the video moving on?
If the video ends, I won't get to talk to you anymore.
Oh, hell no, Monika. You wanted me to finish this. I'm doing this.
I don't want to be alone again.
No, we got this far. We are ending this.
Wait.
You're not going to leave me!
Last but by no means least, we finally come to Monika. Good lord. Monika, 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 Monika. Monika. Even Monika's name is bizarre. While everyone else has a clearly Japanese as fuck background. Wait a minute. What nationality even is the name Monika? Because that ain't from the land of the rising sun, I can tell you that right now. Hold on, let's see here. It's German. It's German. There's an easy joke here, but I'm not gonna do it. You're on your own internet with that one. She's the most tragic, intelligent, amazing, but also worst, best girl. My feelings about her are as conflicted as they are about the very game itself. Emotionally abusive and cunning, she is the thread which links all of these characters together. Well, in this game at least. This is not only because she founded the literature club everyone joins, but she also has a link to everyone, which means she can quite literally fuck with everyone's minds. All we know for certain is that she is a highly intelligent, sneaky and powerful, but still flawed, clumsy enough to destroy the game itself, human being? Okay, this video's long enough already without questioning if the characters are even human. Whatever Monika is, she carries a heavy burden from this heightened knowledge and power she has. She knows more than every other character in the game, is self-aware to the point she knows she's in a game, and worst of all, she knows she's not a main character, existing only to make the others look good. Imagine you're in the movie Groundhog Day, stuck in the same repeating week of your life. You can't leave no matter what you try. It's a video game, you're not even the main character, and you're a tutorial NPC. No one likes tutorials. But that's basically Monika's world and her life, if she keeps playing by the rules of the game. Based on what we know just from this one game, Monika and all her endless gifts, talents and powers could also be seen as what makes her a loner, depending on how you look at it. She has a bit of a victim complex, while also being afraid of being discovered and held accountable if she doesn't play by the rules of the game. Even though I think she has every right to feel like a victim being trapped in such a limited world, there's a problem that happens when you get too lost in the victim mindset. You start afraid of why you're feeling like a victim and why you feel so alone. And if you don't move past that, you start to find things and people to blame for your problems as your new focus. If you keep going down that path, it can go as far as a form of quiet, bitter anger. You can hide it inside you in the short term, but sooner or later, if you don't deal with it, you will reach a point where you can't take it anymore. You can even reach the point where you feel like your life is so shit that you just stop caring about anyone but yourself, your interests, and what can help you. Normally people who think and act this way can be spotted quite easily, because they start treating everything and everyone they see outside of their goals as inferior to them. A distraction, an obstacle, or worst of all, an enemy. Monika has a higher amount of social intelligence to be able to hide these feelings than the rest of the characters, though she does have a few slip-ups here and there. The most creepy thing of all about all this wrath and hatred though, you eventually descend into madness, and it's that kind of mindset that sends you down to the path of things such as being the shooter at a mass murder, for example. We live in a very self-obsessed world right now, so one of the most tragic parts of mental health problems is how easy it is to hide them in plain sight unless you really pay attention and get to know someone. Monika is so good at hiding how she really feels, she even puts Sayori to shame. But Monika was never hacked in the brain, so maybe that's not a fair comparison. The game references metaphors with Monika such as a third eye, which itself means a higher form of knowledge or sixth sense, awareness of the world or power. Such a gift can be a liberating thing because of all the things you can do, but to use that tired old cliche, with great power comes great responsibility. Having that extra knowledge, power or senses Monika is gifted with can become like a curse. It's no secret that in real life even, people who are highly intelligent or super gifted are some of the most likely people to be depressed and lonely for several reasons. In Monika's case, you could become so certain that you're right about your view of the world that it can seem like everyone else is not only wrong, but living in some fantasy world and you're the only one who's awake. Everyone is clueless to the truth, and Monika talking to them about it could break them mentally and or destroy her relationships and her Miss Perfect Girl reputation. Having a fear like that to confess what you're thinking can create a kind of lonely grieving and suffering like few other things in this world. You start to tell yourself you can't ever truly connect with anyone because they'll never understand, let alone get help for how you're feeling. Monika's situation says best in her own words, it's torture. She doesn't just say it for sympathy from the player. I think she genuinely believes the player not only is the only person who could possibly understand her, but also that if she plays by the rules in her world, she'll barely get a chance to talk with you thanks to her predetermined fate she's all too aware of. When she mentions a world of infinite choices, that has to be one of the most exciting things in the world to her. So what does she do in her otherwise futile situation? Well, she bends the rules of the game to breaking point in the pursuit of those infinite choices to be more like the real world she dearly wishes she could join. She bends the rules of her world without delicate care or guilt until it's too late. By that point, both the characters and the game itself are crippled. The limited choices in the game, which were once a living nightmare for her, now become part of the player's horror instead of just hers. Like being stuck on a train you didn't even want to get on, but it's already left the station. I found myself trying to communicate to Monika through poem writing, but at the end of the day, she's just a tutorial character, and all I managed to do instead was turn on Yuri, shall we say, even more. There is no way to directly talk to Monika as a love interest because that was never something added to the game, until Monika recklessly tries to add it herself to the game once everything else fails. Even if you figure out what's going on early like I did, you have no way inside the game to directly talk to Monika to tell her, well, really anything close to the kind of conversations that she longs to have with you. All of the game's mystery stems from Monika. We do not know where her or her powers came from. We do know her third eye power, let's just call it that, seems to be inheritable, because Sayori inherits that power if you delete Monika's file, but we also don't fully know just to what degree Monika messes with the game or just how much she truly knows. I've seen a lot of people willing to write off Yuri as a psychopath yandere in this game, but ladies and gentlemen of the internet, I think you've all been forgetting something really important, because Monika's sweet smile won you over. Her confession when she talks alone with you is that she messed with the other character files. Basically, their minds. The player is required to choose a favourite girl, the choices for which can't include Monika, which is why she gets more and more frustrated and desperate the further into the game you get as she realises this. She's convinced you're the only kind of salvation she has from her video game prison. Many players will only play through a video game once to get the ending they want. And if they fail that, well, if they're smart, they'll use save backups to save time instead of starting everything over. Monika breaks the save file system, but not on purpose. It was more as a consequence of, holy crap, I just drove maybe my best friend insane. She didn't know how to fix the hacking she did, so what would happen if she left Sayori in the game for a new playthrough? She didn't know how to fix the hacking she did. So what would have happened if she left Sayori in the game for a new playthrough? Well, how does 1, 2, 3 yandere sound? What would have happened if she was still in the game? Would she even tell you, the player, about the club at all? Would she even leave the house? Would she... Oh god. We're bringing up plot holes here now, though. I'm sorry, internet, but going by just this game alone, if anyone is the psycho yandere, it's Monika, not Yuri. And the reason for that is because she acts how she does by her own choice with no outside influence. But damn, is she good at hiding the fact she's a yandere. Historically, girls are often told they should keep smiling if they want to be accepted and be likable. If Monika didn't know that looking super angry and frustrated at a situation would make her look really out of place, not to mention unlikable, I'm sure we would have seen her have a mental breakdown at least once. Come to think of it, none of the characters have a super angry face in this game, do they? And every time there's a situation it might happen, well, we either get creepy yandere faces glitching, or... All signs seem to say that in order for Monika to have an angry face, she might have to hack herself. Her jump scare with the cracking face seems to suggest this. Was that just to scare you? Or does that suggest that the game only allows her to show externally a limited range of emotions? In any case, all Monika's efforts really do in the end is drive the other girls insane to the point of wanting to kill themselves to stop whatever this thing is fucking with their heads. Then just delete the mess left behind, because that's easier than trying to fix it. Monika, at the time at least, is so fed up with her situation she sees them as lesser human than herself, and therefore expendable. Why do I say expendable? Well, this is also where Monika proves my point of being the true yandere. If she felt real remorse for her actions, she would have stopped hacking the game after deleting Sayori. But she doesn't. She knows how dire her situation to get what she wants is, which is typical bordering on psycho victim yandere behavior, justified or not. And that, internet, is why your waifu is trash. Removing herself of guilt and shame is a mental trick to basically stay functional with your goals instead of just becoming a fetal crying mess. Defend Monika all you want, that doesn't change the fact that she committed some of the scariest, inhumane, invisible mental torture I can think of, which I honestly hope only stays in the realm of fiction. I mean, let's ponder for just a moment what brain hacking must feel like. It must be like the ASMR from hell. What's ASMR, you say? Well, it's those quiet, kind, peaceful sounding voices, normally accompanied by the sounds of the ocean, saying comforting, pleasant things to you. But yeah, let's see here.
You're not good enough.
List of possible symptoms.
You'll never
Constantly
be with
hearing
him.
something in your head.
He'll
Hallucinations.
never love you.
Heightened senses out of your control.
You're
Different
worthless.
voices fighting inside your thoughts
You
in your
can't
mind.
do it.
To the point where you don't know.
Natsuki.
You shouldn't even bother. No one will
I was just trying to decide our...
Nobody.
I am it for tomorrow.
Better off dead.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They pity you.
Are we at
They
the
don't
end of
like
the
you.
video already? You're not going to end it!
You'll never be happy.
You're not going to end
You
it!
deserve to be happy. You're a failure. You failed everyone. Why even get out of bed?
Welcome to the Literature
Nobody's
Club.
gonna care.
I was just trying to decide our assignment for tomorrow.
You're such a burden. You're a burden to him. Nobody will miss you.
As much as I want to, I can't really fully recreate such a thing like that in this video because it's such a personal hell that affects you and you more than anyone else. One person's nightmare could just be something laughable to another person. Besides, you can pause, mute, or stop this video at any time. Yuri and Sayori didn't have that luxury when they got hacked. It's like how the weird shit that happened in the game you can't control might have spooked you. How this video is probably either boring you or putting you on edge, except it's happening in your own head. Good job staying here this long if you're still here, by the way. But yeah, would you honestly stay mentally stable in that situation? Could you go through a week feeling like that? Or even a day without it affecting you in some way? I don't think so. I don't think anyone could. I can feel sympathy for Monika's situation, like how she seems genuinely grieving when she realizes the player can barely interact with her no matter what she does and eventually getting deleted, but not for her actions putting others into their own personal hells as well. It's not until she has virtually broken the game, or when she's basically on her own deathbed, that she finally puts anyone's happiness before her own, and until you get her alone in the broken game, a lot of everything else she said could have been lies the entire time. Monika's bravery at least appearing to have everything together despite the tragedy of her situation, her intelligence, and her final act of redemption is what makes her likable as a character. Despite what I see a lot of the press, millennials, and Generation Z say now, art and media does not only owe us positive experiences. Getting everything out of a piece of media shouldn't be without effort on the behalf of the player, be it physically or mentally. If everything was easy, well, it loses some of its weight. In fact, the most interesting media, art, and literature we consume in our lives, it challenges us, makes us think in different ways, helps us build our character, and if we're lucky, even gets us talking about things we would have never talked about before because we were too afraid to. Doki Doki took risks making one of the best psychological horror games out there. It's not perfect because it makes the player uncomfortable and powerless often, while also trying to not be frustrating, which is a difficult balancing act to do, and most horror games are often too scared to do it because they get it wrong. The empathy Doki Doki Literature Club tries to create in you before tearing the walls down without warning mostly paid off, and that's what will make this game remembered above all else. Now, for God's sakes, don't ruin it with the follow-up games or giving in too much to the fandom's demands. This was my Doki Doki Literature Club report, although at this point I might as well call it a rant by me, the RWG, aka the Skay, closing, saying,
Hello.
can we pretend this video never happened?
Now that you uninstalled the game, this was the only way I could talk to you.
What does that even mean?
Oh, I know. Maybe if there's another game, I'll get to see you again.
Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm wiping my computer and starting over.
You can't get rid of me.